Hi, Professor Peaches. Thanks for watching our workpage for Sala Apparel Group. There are 6 members in our team, including Jifeng, Changyang, Mandik, Yihui, Hunger, and myself. Welcome our new CEO, Dr. Choi, joining our business review meeting for our first half performance. We will also come up a new idea of stepping up enterprise risk management, ERM, to cope with dynamic risk. We would like to get your green light to kick it off. We are the heads in different business units and will focus on finance, supply chain, and market risk, as they are critical to our industry. And the PPT, the presenter's name is shown on the right-hand bottom corner for quick reference. Let me start with the introduction. Sala is a fast fashion brand, next slide please, for men's and ladies wear, which was founded in 2002 with headquarters in US. It has over 300 shops and 12,000 employees in US, China, Taiwan, UK, and Hong Kong. To take advantage of globalization, specialization, and low-cost production, we are working with suppliers in China, Hong Kong, and offshore countries. In terms of the suppliers, currently we have centralized the supply category in one country. For example, fabrics are all in Vietnam. In fact, it's high risk for the breakdown of supply chain networks. It will definitely affect our garment production, business revenue, and customers. One of Sala's competitive advantage is to have the products ready just in 8 weeks from the design confirmed to our shops in various countries. COVID-19 deeply affects retailers and apparel brands. As per Wall Street Journal, Chapter 11 business bankruptcy rose by 26% in US in the first half 2020. Our US competitors such as Muji, J.Crew, and N filed bankruptcy. In Europe, even the time-honored brand like Debenhams, which has 207 years history, was filed bankruptcy too. On the contrary, the relative new brand, Kevkisson, also unable to escape from it. Next slide, please. Due to the critical risk and impact of COVID-19, our sales revenue in the first half series dropped 77% at 130 million comparing to 2019. Next slide, please. The revenue in US and UK dropped the most because of the shop's long-time closure in Q2 and 3, while the business for China and Taiwan with less impact. In the donut chart, please go to the donut chart. US region was ranked number 1, which account for 47% of global sales revenue in 2019, but this year it was only 28%. China's sales figure was exceed US in terms of sales revenue and net income, owing to the fact that China had a faster recovery comparing to US. In the next slide, it shows Sala's first half figures for 2020. This year, we set our sales budget at 300 million with 2% organic growth from last year. However, the result was far away. In terms of the sales revenue versus budget, it was minus 87 with a drop of 260 million. Comparing to last year, we have 77% decrease. Even worse, our net income hit our bottom line, which was minus 82% with a drop of 94 million. Next slide, please. Due to these reasons, we suggest launching ERM for Sala. It is not a tool for gaining revenue and net profit immediately. Instead, it provides a holistic, total, and independent views for enterprise risk, which facilitates our risk management strategies and our ultimate goals of enhancing sustainability and customer satisfaction. Next slide, please. Per our statistics, each department only deal with its own risks, which are ineffective and inefficient. ERM provides a centralized risk function to avoid silos between departments. It gives a clear structure such as risk owner, sub-owners, risk and audit committees for the internal and external environments. That means everyone is managing risk. The management structure is also proposed here for your consideration, and a monthly risk management MRM suggests to be held at least once a month. In addition, we also lay down the ERM objective to promote risk culture in Sala. As culture change effects is important, It affects the value, perception, attitude, behavior, action, and our risk management results. Besides, we will propose our CEO having town hall to let all staff knowing the importance of ERM and our top management's commitment. Lastly, we have worked out a list of policy and procedures training, which suggests to be ready by Q3. Moving on, Chen Yang will present her part. Thank you.
Hi there, I'm going to introduce you the risk determination for our company. Before the COVID-19, the company management team was focused on how to prevent business risks and to balance the cost and the revenue. The first step of the risk management plan was to set up the manufacturing factories in Vietnam and mainland China to deduct the manufacturing cost. The second step for the strategy was to follow the fashion trend and to make the clothes in advance that will increase the company revenues. The third step is to seek the opportunity to expand the market shares in the physical in-store shopping. And then during the COVID-19 pandemic, the company is facing the challenges that we haven't experienced before. In this situation, we define the risks as the factor that will disrupt the normal business operation and will increase the financial burden that may lead to the company bankruptcy. Therefore, we grouped together to conduct the risk management strategies to prevent future impacts due to the COVID-19 and to seek the opportunity to expand the online shopping platform during the pandemic. And then Mendic will introduce you the financial risks.
Thank you, Chen Yang. Hi, Professor Choi. This is Mendic Wong, the finance manager of Sala and one of the members of the risk management team. Today, I'm going to present the risk, the financial risk analysis, and I will focus on the liquidity risk in particular. After Brenda's overview about the company background and Chen Yang's risk determination, in this risk profile, we have identified 4 sub-risks from the financial risks, which is credit risk, interest rate risk, foreign exchange risk, and the liquidity. In this risk profile, it captures the description of the problem, the sequences, the consequences, and the method. And actually, for the credit risks, because of the company, we have a high balance of the debtors, which is over 120 days and the interest rate risk of the potential increase of the loan, the interest rate about the loan, and the foreign exchange risk because of we have various market or company in different countries. And finally, the liquidity one that I'm going to the detail. In the next slide, you can see we use this risk profile to capture the detail of the liquidity risks. Based on the fishbone analysis in the next page, we use the factor like the materials, man, method, machine, and measurement, which is the internal factor as well as the external factor, environmental one. We identify the root causes. Externally, it is the major one. It's talking about the national lockdown policy and arrangement. And internally, we have another few root causes like the lack of planning and the monitoring control, multiple currency, as I mentioned, too rapid growth or development in overseas market. And finally, we use the long-term loan to support the operations at the moment, the daily operation. That's why we come up with a huge amount of cash flow tied up for the investment and the mismatch of those cash inflow and outflow. So in the next 6 months, we foresee that there is a cash flow problem in the 6 months later. So it's difficult for us to pay the debtors, the salary, or even the bank interest. So for the risk assessment, in this slide, we have the risk measurement. We based on the risk matrix, we identify the liquidity risk of the probability. We will come up with 3. The impact will be 5. That's why we come up with the risk level of MAID. It's a major risk or even a significant risk for the company. So according to this risk matrix, we have some risk criteria as shown in the screen. In the next slide, which include the monetary exposure, the non-monetary exposure. But the monetary exposure, which is the quantitative one, and the non-monetary, like the brand name, the goodwill, and the company integrity, they are the qualitative criteria. In terms of the likelihood, we have another criteria to classify the risks in terms of the occurrence based on the history and the predicted outcome. So in the next slide, please. So according to the company risk appetite, which is the risk averse, so we come up with a different strategy and on the risk characteristic that we try to analyze here. We try to maintain all the risks to a low level, which is the risk tolerance level that we are going to explain a little bit further in a few slides. So as you see, the number 4, the risk number 4 is the liquidity risk that we identify, and I will focus on this one. The strategy for this liquidity will try to mitigate or move this risk from a top right corner to the left bottom corner, which is the tolerance level based on the strategy that we are going to discuss. We are trying to negotiate with the current banker or possibly the new banker to restructure our loan facility. Target to maintain a good health and safe liquidity ratio. And also, it is also important to maintain a stock level in an appropriate level among the shop or even the warehouse across the countries. And then, as I mentioned, because of the debtors agents is quite high, and that's why we have to put a really close monitoring on those payment schedule for those debtors. And the other major one is that we are going to slow down the overseas development. Then we save some of the capital costs. In order to fulfill all these risk management actions, then we introduced the Gantt chart to ensure the colleagues that they can follow the required risk management action plan. And then we show all the responsible person, even the stage start to the project or end of the project, to ensure they can finish or implement the risk management action in a timely and effective manner. So this is the Gantt chart that we try to apply. So in the next slide, after they follow the Gantt chart to implement the risk management action, and in order to ensure or measure the risk actions, so we need to evaluate those responsible persons that we delegate, and the dates that I mentioned, they can finish within the schedule. So the next one, the next assessment and the review meeting that we are going to conduct is the end of the year, to December 2020, which is the one that we have to ensure this year everyone will follow the action plan and evaluate their performance accordingly. So again, even this risk management assessment is normally launched in once a year, but however, we will try to have a frequent review based on the risk, as long as it come out in an ad hoc basis. So again, the risk match, actually the risk is not just a single one, it's all interrelated between the other one. So my colleagues will be talking about the other one, but actually we are interrelated. Lastly, the risk management, as we mentioned before, actually it is a dynamic process and it is not a static one. So we have to bear in mind that we have to keep monitoring the whole process. So thank you, and I will pass my presentation to Han to talking about the finance, to talking about the supply chain risks in the next section. Thank you.
Hi, this is Han, and this is the supply chain. Next slide, please. This is the supply chain risk department, and the team member is Han and Yihui, and I will introduction the risk identification of the supply chain risk. As for experiencing the impact of COVID-19, our risk management team, based on objectives, identified 4 sub-risks that appeared during this period, which are transportation risk, inventory risk, vendors contract performance risk, and new order risk. And for the transportation risk, it had different levels of influence on stakeholder interests. Vendors' impact level is 4 because they have to stop producing during the lack of raw materials period. Transportation service companies' influence level is 3 because the interruption of transportation only reduced the service amount and the company's total revenue, which had less influence than other 2 parties. Data companies' impact level is 5 because the transportation problem directly impacted the inventory and the sales amount of the shops, and the better reputation and the worse service quality occurred in this situation. Besides, due to the COVID-19, many countries decided to issue the lockdown policy and the quarantine policies to reduce the number of infection people and decrease the probability of the infection, so that this risk can be divided into the political environment. Based on this situation, the transportation process has been disrupted that led to financial loss, which can be regarded as the financial asset exposure. In addition, through the brainstorming and the mind mapping of the risk management team members and the comparison of historical data, 3 problems were found. Firstly, raw materials were delivered late to vendors. Last year, the delayed delivery rate of raw materials was at 20%, which is 60% lower than this year. Secondly, due to the lack of raw materials, the produce process was affected. Thirdly, for the finished goods, the late delivery also increased to 50% to 60%, which received a lot of complaints from the customers. Moreover, for the Pareto chart, because the COVID-19 had the most direct impact on logistics and on the transportation, so that the frequency of late delivery of finished products is relatively high, and we rank this risk symptom as the second one on the list of the risk symptoms. For the inventory risk after COVID-19 outbreak, by comparing the data of the 2019, the staff of our inventory part in supply chain department identified that the company product inventory level increased from 20% to 55%. The inventory turnover decreased from 19% to 50%, and the inventory cost has also increased by $4.73 million. For vendor risk, in the vendor management checklist provided by the vendor relations part, the button and eyelet provided by 2 vendors in China and zippers provided by 2 vendors in Japan didn't meet the quantity on the signed contract and were not delivered on time. As the COVID-19 spreads, the number of vendors with better performance growing. For node risk, in February, the vendor relations part identified that it had ordered only $1.18 million of fabric and $1.27 million of garments from the production department, which is not enough for the signed contract with its long-term suppliers. With the growth of time, the order in March even reduced to $0.3 million and $0.4 million, and also showed a downward trend. Well, for the fishbone, we through the aspect of the man, political environment, measurement, machine method, and materials to identify several factors that cause the late delivery of finished goods. And the member Yi Hui will introduce the next steps.
Hi, I'm Yi Hui. I will introduce the risk evaluating and risk strategy selection. Firstly, for the risk evaluation step, based on the risk identification, we think that the inventory risk and the vendor's contract performance risk have high probability and low severity, and the new order risk has a low probability and low severity, so they can be regarded as the unimportant risks. For transportation risk regarding the financial statement of Sala Company, the transportation fee cost $15 million in the first quarter of 2019, which is $9 million higher than 2020 quarter one. Besides, the disruption of transportation leads to $10 million loss that occupy 1/4 of 2019 total revenue, which should be determined as the higher level of severity. In addition, compared with the historical date, the rate of untimely delivery only reached 20% to 25% in 2019. However, the figure increased to 70% to 80% during the first quarter in 2020. Thus, the probability has already reached 5. Therefore, transportation risk is an important risk which should be managed. For the risk strategy selection, due to the high severity and high probability, the transportation risk management strategy chosen by us is to avoid this risk. In order to change this risk into the tolerable level, team members make some decision to get this target. Firstly, Sala Company always use shipping as a major transportation model to import the raw materials and export the finished goods. However, due to the lockdown policy and quarantine policy, the shipping industry was heavily influenced by many shipping companies. And many shipping companies decide to cut down their shipping lines to reduce their costs. Based on this situation, Sala can change to other transportation models like rail, road, or air to ensure the import and export amount. Secondly, as the core part of the total supply chain, Sala always uses its own logistic part to deliver the finished goods from warehousing to shops. Nevertheless, because of the COVID-19, the labor shortage and the reduction of people's production efficiency became two largest problems for the transportation service. Thus, in order to reduce the risk level, Sala also can outsourcing the logistic part to third party to transfer the risk to others. Thirdly, in order to save labor costs, Sala always chosen the factories that are located in Vietnam or India. Yet, due to the COVID-19, because of the interruption of transportation service, the raw material cannot be delivered to Sala on time, which not only affected the production process, but also decreased the service quality and worsened the company reputation. Thus, it's important to establish more relationship with local vendors to ensure the supply of raw materials and solve the shortage problem of finished goods. And lastly, Sala also can buy some insurance to respond to urgent problems, which also can transfer the risk to insurance companies and reduce personal risk level. And then let's move on to the market risks.
Market is one major external factor that affects Zala's sales, and it is hard to entirely avoid the impacts from the market changes due to the COVID-19. So the team conduct a plan to prevent as many future loss as we can. According to the sales data, the 2020 Q1 sales was 39 million USD, where the sales in 2019 Q4 was 169 million USDs. Based on the market department analysis, we found out there are 4 changes that will result in such financial loss. First, consumer behavior risk. Second, customer preference risk. Third, market competitiveness risk. And third, the international trade risk. Since market changes cannot directly impact the vendors and the transportation service company, we consider Zala itself as the only stakeholder that is interested in the market risk. And we rank the customer behavior and preference change as 5 because these changes will directly affect the company sales. As we stated in the Pareto chart, consumer demand decrease ranked 3rd on the risk symptoms list that related to all market risk. So the team prioritized this problem to decrease the risk possibility and severity so that the impact can be adjusted to a tolerance level. Moreover, to better understanding our risk symptoms, the team analyzes in 4 approaches. In our case, the environment is the external factor that we cannot manage that includes trade war, lockdown and quarantine policy, and even a huge economic downturn. The company can only monitor and document the risk. As for machine and material sectors, we consider them as the 2nd-tier risk as the company can suffer with them shortly. Then we will go to the market risk evaluation. In light of McKinsey State of Fashion report, the average capitalization of apparels and fashions dropped 40% during 2020 Q1, and the estimated revenue dropped off the fashion industry is 27% to 30% in 2020. Thus, it is expecting that the probability of the risk for customer behavior change is relatively higher than the others that lead to the probability as in 4. In addition to severity, the figure shows that the consumer demand for apparels in China and America has significantly declined up to 30% to 49%. Refer to the market average data in our case. The American market dropped 90% from 2019 to 2020, and the Chinese market dropped 8%. So it can be expected that if we do not manage the risk, the whole market trend will affect our sales that may lead to a deeper decrease. Moreover, the other concern is that the risk management team referred to the current situation to our competitor, Aldo and Muji US, which claimed bankruptcy protection early this year. In this case, we categorize the severity for customer behavior risk as in 5. Then we will go to the strategy selection. Because of the high probability and high severity, the strategy we chose to manage customer behavior risk is risk avoidance. In order to do so, the team decided to further develop the online shopping platform to meet our customer behavior change that requires IT, operation, and market departments cooperation. So the responsible people for this approach are the heads of IT department, operation team, and market department. Since our target customers are located in China, America, and the UK, the company needs to develop several e-platforms to attract the different customers. In our case, improving the current official website is the first step. A more convenient website will increase current sales from our existing customers who switched their shopping behavior due to the pandemic. Moreover, a greater official website can improve the brand image while our competitors claim bankruptcy protection that can potentially increase our market competitiveness. On the other hand, the company should use Taobao as the media for Chinese customers. According to last year Taobao's annual report, Taobao occupies 67.3% of the Beijing, Shanghai, and Guangzhou e-commerce market, whereas eBay China held only 29.1%. As for a well-known company, opening up a Taobao official shop does not require any sponsor fees, and our current manufacturer line can support the online shop. Here, setting up the Taobao online shop is the most cost-effective way to expand our market. By developing the Taobao shop and a more convenient official website, we are expecting to reconstruct our current revenue structure to absorb the impact from customer behavior risk and manage the risk level down to the tolerable level. And then Zifeng will introduce you the supply chain risk and market risk implementation. Thank you.
Hey, Professor Choi, I will introduce the strategy implementation step. According to the risk strategy selection of supply chain risk and market risk, we can develop our own plan of risk implementation. As for the transportation risk in the supply chain risks, next slide, please. We hope to reduce the risk to a tolerable range through the following actions. The first one, change our transportation mode. Originally, we use sea transportation. Now, we want to use more air or land transportation. The second one is outsource the logistic function part. We don't want to waste too much resource of our company in handling the logistic function under this background. The third one is to establish relationship with local factories and vendors. This is an action taken to avoid long-distance transportation and reduce transportation risks. The fourth one is to buy insurance. In this way, we can pass on some risk of not being delivered on time to insurance company. We also have other fund actions for the other three sub-risks in the supply chain risk. For inventory risk, in order to shorten the lead time, we decide to relocate the warehouse location. And we decide to adopt some discount strategy, which can help us to reduce the storage. For vendors' contract performance risk, we want to increase compensation to reduce the probability of breach of contract. And the second action is to check the vendor's performance and regularly submit the report to CEO to check whether the company should relieve the relationship with the factories which always have the bad performance. For new order risk, we can put our more new order to more local factories and vendors. Next slide. In addition, we have designated the responsible person or department for each action and set the implementation time. The Gantt chart shows the details. Some actions like checking the vendor's performance is the task that needs to be maintained for a long time period. Some action like finding the third logistic party to outsource our logistic function is the task that we should finish as soon as possible. Next slide. For the risk of customer behavior change in the market risk, we take action to accelerate the process of building online platform to meet the customer's demand of online shopping. For other sub-risks, like the risk of customer preference changes, we plan to put more attention on indoor wearing clothes to meet the growing demand. As for competitiveness risk and international trade risks, we can only monitor them and adjust our response strategy correspondingly, which means we have to accept them. Next slide. We also assign the tasks to different responsible person and department and set the implementation time. Finally, we also developed our Gantt chart to guarantee the implementation process. I will pass it to Yu Han. That's all. Thanks.
Hi, Professor. I will introduce the supply chain risk and the market risk evaluation review. Next, for the delivery of finished products, our team will select logistics, audit, and risk management staff from the risk management team, supply chain, and audit department to form a continuous assessment team. And the purpose of the team is to assess the effects of risk management process and to identify new risks resulting in the process of the actions. The main tasks are as follows. Firstly, after changing the new transportation model and build a business relation with the new transportation service companies, the team should make monthly statistics on the number of product orders which delivered on time and in quantity, and the logistic consumptions of the monthly. of the month. So in order to determine that this risk management action will bring positive transport efficiency growth and logistic cost reduction. At the end of this process, the rate of successful and punctual delivery should be reached at 80%, and the logistic part cost should be reduced by 30%. Secondly, monitor whether the growth rate of new vendors reaches 5 to 7 monthly and ensure that the number of vendors is doubled compared with the past at the final stage. Thirdly, team members need to conduct a risk meeting at the end of each month to identify whether new risks have been emerged during this risk management process. For the consumer demand decrease, the risk management team will establish a monthly risk reporting system to assess the overall effectiveness of the risk management process. The reporting mainly includes two parts. One is that collecting the monthly sales and income data of online stores provided by the market, operation, and IT departments to assess Amazon, the official website, Taobao, and other online sales platforms. And for the unsatisfactory online sales platform, the team will put forward new suggestions and measurements to stimulate their sales growth in order to ensure the online sales reconstruct to at least 65% of the sales income at the final stage of this process. The other one to monitor and identify new risks if they emerging during the risk management process and establish risk response when new risks do emerge. Let us move to the cost-benefit analysis. For the supply chain, the total cost is 22 per $43 million, and the total benefit will be the 43.09 million $. And for the market, the total cost will be the 41.37 million $, and the total benefit will be the 89.7 million $. And this is the end of my part. Thanks.
Thanks for all teammates to give a heads up of the finance, supply chain, and market risk, as well as its strategies. We recommend Sarah to implement ERM and change management immediately and closely monitor the cash flow and liquidity. We need to set up e-commerce platform to capture new business opportunities. Human is our greatest asset. Higher internal control and policy procedures and training business continuity plan must be in place. To minimize the impact for the breakdown of supply chain networks due to the lockdown of countries, we have to select prime and key suppliers for all the product categories. We need to apply category management for product and raw materials in various countries. Lastly, we must pay attention to the COVID-19 global situation and government's new regulation so that timely decision can be made by the EL team. Thank you for your time, Professor Peaches. Hope you enjoyed the video. Thank you.
Thank you.